let's talk Free Speech Friday. Maurice Williamson, Auckland City Councillor. G'day, Maurice.
Good morning.
Nice to have you along. It's Stuart Nash, former Labour Party MP, Labour Party Minister. Stu, g'day. Nice to have you here.
G'day, Dunk. How are you? G'day, Maurice. How are you?
Yeah, really, really good.
Good morning, Stu.
I might start with you, Stu.
Hello.
I might start with you, Stu. Free school lunches. It's been a cock-up. We cut a lot of money out of it, and it hasn't worked. What do you do with it?
Absolute debacle, mate. I mean, this is typical of David Seymour. Talks about game, but just doesn't deliver when it comes to the crunch. I think it's really important. I remember when Hikia Parada was Minister of Education, she said we're not going to fund school lunches because every parent has a responsibility to send their kids to school with a lunch, and I completely agree with that. The problem we've got, though, mate, is there are far too many parents absolving themselves of their responsibilities. So we've got to deal with the situation we find ourselves in. Kids do not learn if they are hungry. So we've got to step in, unfortunately. It's one of those things you've got to do as the government, but you've got to get it right. Seymour hasn't got it right. Just take it back to how it was.
I wonder, Maurice, if you just give the schools that really need it the money and they can come up with their own solutions. I think Richard Pribble was saying that, but, it doesn't seem to work from a central Wellington point of view.
Well, there's a whole lot of questions you've got to ask about what's going on. I mean, first of all, we're told that one of the biggest problems we've got in our young kids is the problem of obesity. And if we've got obesity, then how come people are going without? TVNZ ran a disgraceful piece the other night with them all scraping their lunches into buckets and feeding them to a pig. That was all staged. You could see them all lining up ready to do it.
Yeah.
And if you had a look at the kids on that clip, which I've gone back and looked at, some of them were pretty well damn fed from my point of view. I think Richard Prebble's article in the Herald was absolutely spot on, absolutely nailed it. I'd can the whole bloody thing, put some money into the hands of schools for those genuinely in need of getting some food, and I mean genuinely in need, which is a very small percentage of what's out there. And I'd ask families out there that are saying, we got no money to feed our kids, what did you spend on smokes this week? What did you spend on alcohol this week? What did you spend on Sky or the TAB? I mean, feeding your kids should be the number one priority. I'd scrap it and put whatever the money is involved into the hands of various schools and say, you look after those kids that are genuinely in need.
Stuart, whose responsibility is it to feed children when they go to school?
Well, it's the parents' responsibility. I have no doubt about that. But as mentioned, parents are absolving themselves of their responsibility. So we just got to deal with the reality we find ourselves in. I disagree with Maurice. I think this can be done in a way that, with scale, that provides lunches cheaper than any school could ever do it. You've got some schools, most of the decile 10 ones, mate, that have a PTA, they run sausages, all this sort of carry on. You need professionals doing this. It was working before Seymour came in and tried to do it for $3 a lunch. The food isn't good, and you can't, Maurice, equate obesity with nutrition and good health. Part of the reason a lot of the kids are obese is because they're eating chips and pies and drinking Coke. We've got to give, often this is the only good, until this came along, was the only decent meal these kids had. Now, Duncan, it is the parents' responsibility. And, Maurice's comment that how much do they spend on smokes and booze and the TAB, I don't think there are many parents in this day and age who prioritise smokes over their kids' lunch. We are in difficult times. There are a whole lot of families that genuinely cannot afford good, healthy food for their kids. And this is where, this is the role the state plays. I get sick to death of people saying, the country's like a household. When the households are in trouble, you cut back. Running a country is not like running a household. Every now and again, the state has to step in and fix mischief when they see it. And I think hungry kids in school is mischief that the state has responsibility to solve.
I just wonder though, Maurice. But I just wonder though, Maurice. There seems to be a whole bunch of middle class kids that have got a history of of being provided food by their parents, and parents have for years given them their food as they should, and now so they are now receiving these free lunches. And I just wonder, did it go too far and started to feed middle class kids who became entitled? I don't like this butter chicken this hot,
That's the whole point of it. There has now been an expansion to who's getting it. I know of at least 2 schools have told me that the teachers were taking some of the meals home for a dinner that night because they were good meals and there was plenty left over. So, look, if you do want to target the real serious problems where the parents have abrogated their right to look after their kids properly and so on, I'm okay with having some funding go to those particular schools and they can buy in food and so on specifically for the targeted audience. This blanket stuff where it's completely abused and actually a waste of money. And when I heard, our lunches weren't halal, give me a bloody break. If you're halal and it's that important, make your own bloody kids a halal lunch.
Yeah, look, I'm with you on that,
I want alfalfa in my sandwich.
There's got to be a better way, Dunk. There's got to be a better way, as Maurice says. I don't think we're too far apart. Find a way to target the kids who need it. There were a couple of tweets that were put out. Yeah, there are a couple of tweets put out by self-entitled people who said, I suppose I'm now going to have to make my kids lunch. Well, yeah, you probably are. But there's got to be a way to target those who need it without shaming those. I don't know. There's got to be a better way. But I do think that the state has a responsibility. But it's, Seymour has made a real dog's breakfast of this, pardon the pun. You know what it's like. The media pick up probably 20 stories a week. Every now and again, there are 2 or 3 that transcend the Beltway. And occasionally, there's one that just keeps going and going and going. And this is that one story, probably of the year so far, that has not only transcended the Beltway, we're still talking about it a month later because they still cannot get it right. Seymour, this is dragging the government down. I think this is a real debacle. And I'm
look, I do. I agree. I think it does.
I'm giving it to Eric.
It does. Yep, and it starts to infect government. But I just wonder, with the role of governments themselves, we've got 57% of New Zealand families are now eligible for working for families. And so we start to get to the point where we are paying for everything as a state. The state pays for everything. When does responsibility lie with a family unit? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, it is a good point.
Duncan, I tell you the other thing I laughed the other night. TVNZ ran a poll. Do you think the new school lunch thing is working or not? And 65% said no. And they headlined the story with 65% of New Zealanders want to go back to the old scheme. That was not the question. The question was, is the current one working or not? I vote no. I think it's a shambles. Do I want to go back to the old one? I'm not part of that. So how can you come up with the same number when the question wasn't even that? It was it working or not? Do you want to go back or not? Was not the question. This is just taking away every bit of oxygen from the news media for any government they're trying to get stories out and get them up and running. Just can it right now, take the sum of money, distribute it across the schools where they are in the decile levels that they know those kids won't get food. Find a way to provide food to the really in net and stop the nonsense now.
Maurice,
that story the other night.
Maurice and Duncan, can I ask you, would you, of all the prime ministers you have both known, and Maurice you served under, and Duncan you've reported on, I can't imagine, John Key, Helen Clark, even Jacinda Ardern, Bill English, accepting this for as long as it is. I don't know why Luxon, weeks ago didn't say, okay, David Seymour, you've lost this portfolio. It's such a mess. I'm going to give it to the Minister of Education, who's doing a pretty good job in her portfolio. Just get rid of it, cauterise it now, and move on. But his lack of leadership has let this wide for far too long.
Yeah, he's disinterested domestically.
I totally agree.
I agree with you too. I agree.
The internal dispute between the minister and David Seymour looks really bad. He's going on about things. She's saying, well, I haven't been briefed on that and I'm not happy about it. And you go, this does not look good. The Minister of Education and the Associate Minister of Education not even able to meet on a certain day to discuss it. Just cauterise it by bang, finished right now, over, gone.
Yeah, I've seen this over the years. Remember George Hawkins with the police portfolio, and his perception of his incompetence in answering questions, therefore infected the Labor government. So they sort of put him to one side. And this is what prime ministers are meant to do. They're meant to see this. This is what leadership is. You see this stuff and you cauterise it. And I just think Luxon's he's almost disinterested. Maurice, he's almost sort of, oh well, that's not my problem. It is your problem, mate.
Well, I guess he's worried about how you hold a coalition together. But you see, what's so incredibly interesting about this is ACT policy before an election was held. ACT policy was to not have lunches in schools. So when you then get a coalition government together, you make one of the people in charge of it the leader of the party that was opposed to having school lunches anyway. And now, give me a clue how that works.
Yeah. It's not even. This is your old policy, Stu.
Oh, well, mate, I wasn't ever Minister for Education. The thing is David Seymour was about to become Prime Minister. Mate, I wouldn't bet the house, but I'd bet a sly 100 on the fact there's going to be an early election, because it'll get to the point where David Seymour and Chris Luxon goes, enough's enough. I can't put up with any more. Winston, love him or hate him, and I've got an immense amount of respect for Winston. I'll come out and say that. But, no matter what you say, if you treat Winston with respect and you meet the promises that are made under coalition agreement, he is a very, very good coalition partner. David Seymour, that guy's about to become Deputy Prime Minister. I'd put money on an early election, because I just don't think it's going to work.
I reckon they'll make it work because they have to. You're right about Winston, though. He is loyal. Just speaking of Winston, he's been in Washington. Morris, I can't think of anyone else that we would want to be there right now than Winston. I think he's at the time of his career, halfway through his career at age 80, that he's the perfect guy for the job. He's respected, he's got charisma, and he's got character, and he's got knowledge and history, and he's perfect, isn't he?
Absolutely. And I can tell you, while I was in the diplomatic corps and working in a Los Angeles base, I met with a whole lot of consul generals and ambassadors and even high commissioners. And I tell you what, he was held in such regard. His personal style, his real gentleman, always looking magnificently dressed, always looking the part, but always just that calm. He's, in my view, well suited to be, in my view, one of the best ever foreign ministers we've ever had.
Stuart?
I couldn't agree more. And by the way, Morris was an exceptionally good Consul General as well. I'll give you that as well. But no, Winston, you wouldn't want anyone else there. I couldn't. Nothing to add to what Morris said. But the guy's brilliant. He's a gentleman. He's professional down to the core. He looks the part. He's smart. He's engaging. He's everything you would want in a foreign minister. And I would say the second best foreign minister we've ever had behind Walter Nash, Morris.
I didn't know Walter Nash was foreign minister. Sorry, I thought he was only prime minister. That's all. He was foreign minister, was he?
Yeah, I think he was in his term. He spent most of his prime ministership travelling the world, apparently. But selling New Zealand in a good way.
But Winston, I tell you, I promise you, I'm not making it. He is held in such high regard. I mean, for a small country like us, you'd expect we would be 36 down the list of anybody. There's the Secretary of State in the US, and then you go with Britain and Germany and France and so on. But everybody raised, New Zealand, you're Minister of Foreign Affairs. Just spectacular. He's really held in high regard.
I heard him talking yesterday, and he said something along the lines of, "Hey, everyone just needs to keep calm here. We'll go and find out what the deal is, and we'll breathe through our nose. And we haven't said anything stupid in the lead up to these meetings, which puts me in a good position. So everyone just needs to take a bit of a chill pill here, and just let me hear this. Just let me go and sit down with them, and let me have a chat. That to me, Morris is he's got poise." He's got calm. He's taken counsel. He's taken his own counsel, and he's a man at the top of his game who just knows how to play that game over there without all the hype and panic and stress. Because that will go nowhere.
And it has to be like that, because if you take every one of the big conflicts, if you take either the Palestinian Gaza thing or you take Ukraine or whatever, they're never black and white. They're never good and bad. They're never right and wrong. There is always a combination of nuances and elements to it. And somebody who's just calm enough to think through it all, to try to find the good bits that they can build on, to try to find the bad bits to remove. He's just got that. He's engaging. I've had quite a long time with him. I mean, we were in the same caucus together for years before he left. And I don't agree with his policies on things like immigration. But he can have a good debate with you, and you don't have to be enemies at the end of that. You can agree to have a different view. I really like the guy.
Yeah. What we'll do,
question for you both, though. I'm Morris, but can New Zealand First survive without Winston? Is this a kind of personality, or is there an enduring party here?
I think Jones is doing well enough. Jones is one of the best performing ministers and MPs at the moment.
You reckon?
Yeah.
You reckon Jones can get 150,000 votes?
Nobody can give it a good go.
It will be hard, and I think that Shane Jones has got the ability to do it if he does it right, but it won't be it won't be a walk in the park.
No. No, but he's giving it a go.
Who's saying that Winston won't be there in 20 years?
No one. Don't you dare say that. We'll take a quick break, guys. We'll take a quick break. It's 19 away from 10. We'll come back. A couple more questions to finish things up. Okay, we are 16 away from 10. It's Free Speech Friday, brought to you by the Free Speech Union, of course, and we appreciate their support. Maurice Williamson and Stuart Nash are with us. Maurice, the economy appears to have turned slightly. It's tentative, but it's early days, but there's some green shoots there. The GDP numbers out yesterday showed that we're out of recession, which is something to celebrate because there hasn't been much good economic news around.
Yeah, I just take it all very slowly and stay calm because, just one swallow doesn't make a summer. Yes, it has turned just ever so slightly. The thing I think everyone needs to understand is that this recession was actually engineered by Adrian Orr, who said we're going to shove interest rates to a point where we will force a recession into the economy in order to try and put the brakes on. So this wasn't a recession that just happened. It was actually engineered to happen. I think the one number I got out of yesterday that really made me feel slightly better was the fact that GDP per capita rose, and that's for the first time in several years. And that's a much more important figure for me because the GDP can go up quite a lot if you have a lot of people and with a lot of capital and a lot of expenditure coming in migration, and it can go down if you have them going out. But the per capita basis gives you a better ratio of what's going on actually in the economy. So, green shoots, be very careful the sun doesn't come out and burn them.
Yeah, no, I know what you say. There's, what I can't believe, Stu, and this is something that and I've taken on a lot of pain during this time as personally as well. But this whole engineering a recession, we had to, and you guys were in office, and you had the Reserve Bank there doing this. We manufactured a deep recession that went on for too long, and we're only just coming out of it now. It was man-made.
Yeah, crazy, eh? And this is, I like, as a person, Adrian Orr's a nice guy. He's a very entertaining after-dinner speaker and a very smart man. The problem with Adrian is in my humble opinion, is that what happened is he went from being in a position where he wasn't that accountable, or certainly not in the way the Governor of the Reserve Bank is, to being in a position where the media hung on every single word. So Adrian would go to a select committee in Parliament and he'd say things that ordinarily people would go, oh, whatever, that's just Adrian. But the media reported on them. I mean, saying that we're going to engineer a recession or there's a recession, a little bit like Keating said in Australia, is crazy. And there's been so much pain. But keeping in mind the economy is still smaller than it was a year ago. I'm with Maurice on this. One swallow does not make a girlfriend. You've got to wait and see what happens next quarter. When tourism is the thing that you're counting on, then, low-wage jobs. The thing that concerns me greatly, certainly as a boy from the regions, is construction is still way down. Now, construction, these are the men and women who go really hard. These are your tradies, your plumbers, your sparkies, your chippies, who are the backbone of our economy. We need the construction numbers to be up if we're really going to see an economy that kicks into gear.
Yeah, but we've lost these guys to Australia. I mean, we're lucky that we've got the safety valve, to be honest, Maurice, because without Australia, our unemployment numbers would be way higher, I reckon.
Yes, we're lucky we've got Australia in a way, but Australia also is very tempting to our most valuable person, human capital that can get on the plane and go. And it's a tragedy when we lose. I mean, there's no point having our immigration bringing in unskilled, low-quality workers to try and fill gaps at the bottom, and at the same plane leaving, it's got all of our talented and capable people going out. So, look, I talk a lot to the public because as an Auckland councillor, we meet at functions, and I'm still feeling a real nervousness from people about investing yet, making some big decisions yet. There are times in the history of this economy, we're going for it, no, big time, we're going to go back. It's just going to keep a weather eye on that. I'm going to watch out. I'm still not sure. So I don't think we're out of this storm yet by a long way.
It's been good talking to you guys. I'll just finish on something with you, Maurice, because it's an Auckland issue, which is the Speedway. This is the last weekend in Auckland that they will have a speedway at Western Springs. Now, if you're a petrol head and you follow this sort of stuff, it is legendary and iconic, of course, you'll know that, at Western Springs, and they're off to Waikiraka Park. Did they have to go? Are we sorry that they're going? Should it not have ever have happened?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've got to disclose that democracy prevailed and the majority got their way. I voted the other way. I thought Speedway should have stayed in Western Springs. And I actually said in the Herald that if any minister had taken to cabinet such a discombobulated, was the word I used, paper,
yes,
in which the numbers were just so thin and sketchy, the background of paper almost didn't exist, the contestable advice was not there. I said any minister that took a paper like that to cabinet would have a prime minister saying, take this away and bring it back when it's tidy.
Yes,
So we ended up having to vote on just rubbish information. Looked like even some documents were doctored and had letterheads changed and signatures changed, and that'll yet to be slashed its way through, because there is a judicial review going to happen in the courts on this. I think Speedway should have stayed, but unfortunately the numbers weren't strong enough. It wasn't a big win, but it was a majority of people voted for it to go.
Yeah, they've almost got a cultural claim. Yeah, go, mate.
Yeah, can I say, it's bloody good that you had guys like Morris who've sat around a cabinet table, sitting around council tables. I mean, it's my experience in the Bay here as well. Like, that guys who have been in cabinet and know how to read and analyse and ask the hard questions make exceptional local government politicians, because they can sniff out bullshit. And and when I heard that Morris was on there, and I heard you made those comments at the time, I thought, well, that's exactly what would happen around the cabinet table. You just can't get away with this sort of shit around the cabinet table. So it's bloody good to see you there, Ross, holding people to account.
Look, thanks for that. But let me tell you the one thing about local government, which I'm still just furious about. We get papers from the officials, and it's their view only, and that's it. Whereas in cabinet, you would get contestable advice. Treasury would put a note to it saying, we still don't think you can justify the numbers. State Services Commissioner would have some issue with regards to its impact on employment and state services. You'd have to meet, even Crown Law would have a view about legal implications or whatever. And you'd be able to look at the various contestable bits of advice and finally make a decision. What we get in Auckland Council, and I looked at all the other council's papers, it is just the official's view of something, unistream, now we want you to say you approve. And I'm really angry that we're not getting more of that proper decision-making based on good quality information and good contestable advice.
No, I'd support that. I also support what Stuart said about having people like Morris around the table too. It gives you confidence that it is actually being governed properly. Morris, appreciate your time, mate. We'll do it again another time. And Stewie, really appreciate your time. So thank you so much, gents. I'll let you go. It's Friday. Thank you. Okay, cheers, Stu. Thank you, Morris. And it was brought to you by the Free Speech Union. We do thank them for their support.